Right,
Go
are you
for it.
recording? Right, good
That's it.
stuff. Okay, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the live Zoom Scottish Property Podcast Q&A, lockdown live, call it what you want. Myself and Stephen Clark, who are the co-hosts of the Scottish Property Podcast, we like to do these sessions to try and help out our community who are predominantly listening to our podcast and on our Facebook group as well. And it's also nice to connect with new people, see your names, see your faces up on the screen here. So I think for the first 15 minutes or so, we're going to give you a little rundown. A lot of people come to us and ask us questions, you know, how to get involved in property, how to finance property deals, what they should be learning about, where they should be learning, little bits and pieces like that. But the most common questions. So those of you who are experienced investors probably will not get a lot for this next 10, 15 minutes, but you know, we obviously open it up to chat and questions as well. And if anybody's got anything to chip in as we roll on, then we'd be happy to hear from you. So, Stephen, I think it was back in episode number 9, I think it was, we did a little title of our podcast was How to Quit Your Job and Go Full-Time Property. And I think people who are thinking about that would probably get a lot from going back listening to that podcast. And it is a kind of similar kind of theme, like how to get started in property. So give us your kind of starting point for people who are interested in this, who have not necessarily got the ball rolling yet. Where would you start off?
The starting point for me is look at the end. Where's the end? Where's the point where you want to be? What's the goals in property? What's your reason why? Why do you want to get involved in property? Because as much as it might look like from the outside it's a get rich quick scheme, it certainly isn't. It's a lot of hard work that the experienced guys will know on this call as well. So to know what you want to get out of it is really where you want to start. So if that's to top up an income, to bring in a retirement funds, to quit your job, then that's going to have a monetary value, and that monetary value will then, along with your skill sets and what resources you've got available, kind of dictate what strategy you'll go into as well. So it's not quite as easy as just, you know, let's get started. You want to look at where you want to be, what do you want it to bring you, and once you've figured out the answers to these questions, then you can start now looking at the different strategies involved in property and mapping out your route, so to speak.
I love the goal setting, and we did a goal setting podcast at the start as well, where me and Stephen talked about our goals. That's obviously changed a little bit with coronavirus and all that, but we need to review them. It's obviously good to review your goals. That's one of the things that, you know, clients ask me when they come to me. They quite often they don't have a clear picture of where they want to go, and I think that is really important right from the start. Break down what you're after. Are you wanting to live off your property income, in which case cash flow is going to be, like, you know, crucial to you. Like we talked about before, it could be I mean, there's loads of different things you can do within property, you know, serviced accommodation, flips, buy to let.
It usually comes down to the personal circumstances and what skill set and resources you've got available to you. If you love your job and you want to stay in your job, but you're just looking to add a couple of properties to your portfolio, or you just want an extra few £100 a month income, then that's fine. But if you want a bigger amount of cash flow, or with leased properties, then yes, like your service accommodation, HMO, and bigger cash flow and strategies would be the ones to go into. So yeah, it's difficult depending on who you are, what you want out of this, and basically fine tune that first.
Cool. What about obviously education's a big thing. People start, you know, researching online, on the internet, doing YouTube. They come across these big property gurus, and then they get kind of sucked in, and, you know, they think that this is their ticket to success if they go on one of these courses. So again, we talked about this before, but let's just cover it in a brief couple of minutes. Quick views on education.
Yeah, I mean, the pros and cons is you don't know what you don't know. A lot of this information that you learn on courses is out there available. It's freely available. There's people that's experienced on this property podcast group who are sharing the value you're going to learn in these groups, and we're sharing them on the podcast for free. So there's books, there's podcasts, there's forums, there's Facebook group pages,
Zoom chats,
huge amounts of free available content. But it depends on what you want. And again, to fast track yourself, we've spoke to a couple of guests on the podcast as well. We believe that paying a lot of money for the training gave them the complete kick up the arse to not laze about on this and not sit down on this and actually take huge action, because they only needed to, because they've just spent tens of thousands of pounds on training. So, you know, if you just learn it for free, maybe you wouldn't take much value from it. It's nice to learn from other people's experiences as well and get their take on it.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with going on courses, guys. We don't have anything against courses, but absolutely do your due diligence about, these courses and who's actually teaching you, because a lot of them out there are you've got to question how much they are actually doing property. A lot of them are sales, marketing people. They're salesmen, right? That's how they make their money. That's why they're good at standing up in front of crowds. Not necessarily. The most successful property investors are guys who are going about it very quietly, who are not posting constantly on LinkedIn, Instagram and all that. I mean, if you're looking to get a mentor as well, there's loads of guys probably out there, like guys that are operating at a high level, that will probably be happy to just meet up even for like an hour coffee or something like that. Just try and, meet people who you want to aspire to get to, not just some guru who's selling a course. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's important when it's like my mentor as well to pick someone that's only a few steps ahead of where you are. I don't know if that makes sense, but I found that when I've spoke to people that were very, very successful in property before, they were irrelevant, if you know what I mean. Like if you speak to someone who's got a huge portfolio, they've done bigger developments, when you speak about the intricacies of what's going on in the market right now and how you raise funding and what mortgage products are available, they don't have a clue. They're like, I buy cash.
Do you have a mentor as such? Do you have a mentor? Do you pay for one, or do you have one just like one that you don't pay for that you kind of look up to? Or?
Yeah, I don't pay for a mentor at the moment, but I do got a couple of mentors. Jerry Alexander on this call kind of mentors.
Oh yeah, he does good things. Jerry's on the call here.
And I've got another mentor he did have a grocery chain, and he sold it for millions of pounds, and he invests in a lot in property. But again, he's not that couple of steps ahead of me. He's so far in advance because he's made his millions through his business and buys properties cash and looks at different investments and developments. So he looks at it from a different point of view altogether. So I think it's important to make sure you kind of get the right mentor, the one that's just ahead of you, that that they've just walked the path just in front of you, so they can give you kind of relevant advice rather than theory-based stuff or stuff that they done years ago.
See, I don't actually have a mentor as such. Obviously, I look up to people that are sort of posting stuff on social media. I'm looking at Jerry Alexander here, and see, Jerry, could you be my mentor as well, please? You get two here, two for the price of one. So maybe I could use Jerry as my mentor.
No, there's definitely a lot of value to be taken from guys that are doing this, and you know yourself as. Even when you're doing this day in, day out, you don't know everything. We don't know everything. We're always learning constantly. So there's people that have got involved in different strategies. I mean, we're quite bespoke to the fact that we do buy-to-lets, we buy-to-flips, and I saw some deals on. So we've got a bit of niche strategies in what we do. It's very, very basic and simple. I mean, I don't do SA or rent-to-rent or HMOs and that, so I don't know anything about them. So it's quite nice to speak to people who are bigger on new build developments or commercial residential developments and stuff like that. It's quite good.
I tell you what, talking about gurus and training at the moment, I mean, that Samuel Leeds is absolutely taking a pounding just now, left, right and centre. You've got the guy, used to be on Dragon's Den, Shaf.
I've contacted him to be a guest on the podcast, so see if we can get him on.
We need to get Ask Shaf on. He's putting out some good content. I like his YouTube videos. I think he's good.
Let me ask the listeners, actually, because while I'm on this subject of asking guests on, is there anybody you'd like to get on here on the podcast, or anybody you think that would give really, really good value?
Yeah, find it in the comments.
It's my task this week to get a guest, and I'm kind of failing. You'll laugh at some of the people that I've reached out to. I heard that the singer Amy McDonald is a hugely keen property investor, so I thought she'd be quite cool to get on, but funny enough, she's ignored me on Instagram.
You're kidding me? You got blanked by Amy McDonald?
Yeah, I got blanked by quite a few people, actually.
Oh, what? She doesn't have
enough rep yet.
She married I think it was a Rangers player or something like that. She got married to a footballer. She's into her fast cars, Ferraris and all that as well.
She's Glasgow based, isn't she?
Yeah, Glasgow, yeah. I might have a contact, mate, that could get to her, so let me have a try. See if I get her on and you don't, that'll be a total score.
Oh, no. I'm seeing if anybody's got any suggestions coming through. Paul Mort. Who's Paul Mort?
Paul Mort? I don't know who that is.
Kieran, who's Paul Mort? Give us some information. Dan Pena, Callum, that's a great shout. Dan Pena. He's the guy that what do you call it? Paul McFadden and all that. They use him as the kind of mentor, don't they?
Yeah. $50 billion man. Yeah. I think his title's just about to change to the $1 trillion man.
Oh, was it?
Right. Oh well, that's
Paul-
it. Somebody said Paul
Mort is,
McFadden.
Paul Mort's a coach, but he invests as well. But his mindset's ridiculous. It's so funny. He's
Right.
well worth the hour.
Where's he based? Is he on social media?
Yeah, he's on Instagram, Paul Mort. Yeah.
I'm going to take note of these. Anyone else got any other suggestions? And
Here,
anybody
somebody said here Paul McFadden, right?
you've asked them.
I've contacted Paul McFadden about 5 times, right? I keep pounding him with messages, and he keeps saying, "I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you." But I did say to him, "Look, see if you want to come on a podcast. We're not going to go lightly on you. We're going to ask you. You know, we're going to grill you basically. So maybe that's why he's not come back." But the way that I put it to him was that, you know, we want to ask about the tactics, about the ethics surrounding getting hundreds of people in a room and then upselling them and all that, you know. And I wanted him to defend his corner basically, and I didn't want it to turn into just a pitch for him. So that's probably why he's not come back to us.
Yeah, surprise for you.
Who else we got? Robbie Fowler. Well, Robbie Fowler is the face of the what's it called? Legacy training. So if anybody's not aware, if anybody's new to property, what they do with these training camps and what do you call them, seminars, is they put out a Facebook ad or a Google ad, and they have Robbie Fowler's picture attached, and they say, "We'll be coming to Glasgow on such and such a date," and you think that Robbie Fowler's going to be there, but is he fuck? Robbie Fowler doesn't turn up. It's just a salesperson. So
who's Steve Green? Kelly's mentioned Steve Green from Redcar.
Steve Green, I don't know. I've not seen Steve Green. Grant Cardone.
Grant Cardone goes on everybody's podcast.
I don't know if he was. I'm not too sure. We've got the numbers yet for to attract Grant Cardone onto the podcast.
I'm pretty sure we could.
I seen he was on a Rob Moore one recently. Rob Moore actually grilled him quite well as well. He gave him some tough questions. Rob Moore would be good. He'd be a good one to get. Mike Stenhouse, he blanked us as well.
He blanked us. Yeah, he was up in Kirkcaldy. He was only 10 minutes along the road from me when we first launched the podcast, and I said, "Do you know what? I'll hit Mike a message," because he interviewed me about a year back. It must have been that crap, but he never posted it.
He's flying now, man. They're
doing well. Their podcast is really good.
Yeah,
it's very much HMO driven though, which I think probably doesn't suit a lot of investors in Scotland.
Yeah,
they're big in Manchester.
Well, that was one of the reasons we started doing this, because we listened to all these podcasts. We're like, well, this is just getting a bit kind of, you know, it's a bit same with the HMO stuff.
Yeah, lease options getting grilled to death, HMOs getting grilled to death, and there weren't the strategies that we could implement in Scotland.
Right, cool. We'll take on board some of those suggestions, and we'll certainly keep trying for you guys. Anyway, let's move on. So we've got the education stuff, and I would say to you, education, guys, there's loads of podcasts, like we mentioned. Loads of books, and not just property books. You know, educate yourself on the basics, the property, of course, but you know, mindset books as well. I was always a bit kind of thought mindset was a bit, you know, I didn't really buy into it too much. But just lately, I've been reading a lot of the kind of business books, and you know, even ones like the one that I just read was the Nike one, the Shoe Dog one, stuff like that. Hearing what other entrepreneurs and business people how they've been successful, a lot of that opens up your mind as well.
Everyone's got a limited belief when it comes to their own mindset. So yeah, I think mindset is really, really important in property investing and business in general.
Yeah, let's talk about financing deals, and you know, people are like, well, that's great. You know, I want to get started in property investing, but I've got no money. Do you know what I mean? So, like, just quickly, a couple of minutes on that.
Yeah, sure. So what we're looking for, buy-let financing or flip financing?
What's the sexier? Obviously the flips.
We done a podcast on this a few weeks ago. We spoke about financing and flips, so we went through the different strategies of ways to raise money. I think the first one we mentioned was raising equity against your own home. So if you've got a nice buffer in your own home, you can really pull out some equity. And if it's cheap borrowing at the moment, so it makes sense to raise some money there. If you can put it to work harder for you in a flip. The next one was bridging loans. We went in depth into the ins and outs of bridging finance, and then we discussed the opportunity of using a buy-to-let mortgage, which technically isn't right, but people sometimes do it one or two times, you can get away with it.
By the way, on the financing, we had some chat last week, which I did a bit of editing to, so we could put it up on the YouTube about the bounce back loans. So this is the government bounce back loans, and I've been following on social media. There's been a bit of a fallout. I think it was Paul Smith. A lot of people have been firing at him because he put up basically saying that you could take out this 50 grand loan and not, didn't have to pay it back. Like some weird line that he came out with was, buy a property and you might not even have to pay it back, and then he got absolutely pounded. But anyway, so the long and short of it is I applied for the bounce back loan after last week's podcast, right? And it was like Monday night, I think it was. I went and applied for it for my business. This is for my lettings business, which I have, suffered losses from the coronavirus because lost a lot of tenants and stuff like that. And I applied for 48,500 or something like that, and I hadn't heard back from them. And I phoned them today because you said you got yours through like
2 days. I dropped it.
2 days, right? So I was like, oh no, I've been rejected or something like that. Anyway, phoned them back today, RBS, and they said, no, we have approved it. It will be coming into your bank account this week. So
just a backlog they've got at the moment.
Yeah. So look, that's been a week. So a bit longer than a week, it's going to be in my account. So quite happy to get that. But there's been a lot of chat and a lot of negativity.
You know what I mean? It's interest free for the year. You don't pay a penny back if you pay it back within the year as well. So I mean, if you just want to sit there and leave it as a buffer, then leave it. But if you can put it to use and make use of it in your business or investments, then great.
But then there was people on some of the forums saying that, oh no, you're going to get audited and stuff like that, and you're going to be, you're not allowed to buy assets with it. But to be honest with you, I think we're going into like uncharted territory here. So how these people know that and how HMRC are going to react to it, I don't know how they know all this. And I even emailed my accountant, and he didn't say that I couldn't go and buy property or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's you tick to accept that you're not buying assets with it, but I took it out on my trading limited company, and all I'm doing is lending it into my investment company to buy a flat up in Aberdeen. Don't have another one in the portfolio, and I'll do what I usually do. I'll add the value through the renovation. I'll refinance and pull all the money back out of it. I'll be able to pay the bounce back loan off. The way I see it, and it's to stimulate the economy and make sure businesses have got money. So if I'm buying a property with it, it's an asset. But straight away, I'm going to be employing a joiner, sparky, plumber, electrician, paint and decorate, a whole lot to go in and refurb this flat. So you're kickstarting the economy and getting everybody back, working and getting self-employed guys busy.
And I think like the true entrepreneurs, business-minded people amongst us will definitely be going for this loan. It's just a no-brainer. Do you know what I mean? Somebody's asked here, how much is the interest after a year? Well, Raymond's replied 2.5%. I think on my repayments, based on 48.5 grand, so 48,500, I think.
870.
Yeah, it's about 800 and something per month. And the way that I looked at that is, well, this was for the Arc Property Letting Agency, and I thought to myself, well, do you know what? I could employ a full-time member of staff for a year. I only need to get, like, say, about 16 properties. If I get 16 properties in to manage over the course of that year, then that will cover the repayments. Do you know what I mean? And it means that I'll be able to employ a member of staff, which basically means that I can go off and do social media videos all day and not have to worry about managing properties.
Record podcasts.
We can record more podcasts, yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense.
And like you say, it's employing somebody, so it's boosting the economy.
Yeah, 100%. I think that was the whole purpose with it. The government have backed these loans. They're paying the interest for the first year at the bank. You're signing no personal guarantees that the government's backing it completely. It's to stimulate the economy and get everything going back quickly as we can.
What's the rule with the turnover again?
25% of your turnover.
25%.
Is what you can borrow.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not telling you what to do, but there's not auditing any turnover, or what you're putting in either. So
yeah, right.
One to be taken.
Right, nice one. Let's move on and let's just talk a little bit about finding deals. Actually, wait a minute. Before we move on to that, there was a good question today on the. There was a great question today on the Scottish Property Facebook group from a guy called Stuart Cant, and he was talking about people talk about finding the deals first and then getting the investors, or finding the investors first and then getting the deals? So obviously, what's your train of thought on that, and how do you go about getting investors quickly?
I'm more on the side of finding a deal first and the money will come to you. But I know that a lot of people think that's completely backwards, and you might as well try and find the money first before finding the property. But the way I see it is, if your deals are that good and they stack up, which they will stack up from my deals, then I know the money will be easy enough to find. So yeah, that was my chain of thought. What about yours?
I've always see, I'm a bit the other way. I like to build up a relationship and have somebody that I can really rely on, that wants to do business with me, that I can know is going to pull through and do what they say they're going to do when I come to them with a deal. And a lot of people that I work with, I'll sit down with them and find out exactly what they want, go through like their criteria. And to be honest with you, it's not really that sexy, the stuff that I do for a lot of investors. It's basic buy to let. So, it's not really too much of the buy, renovate, refinance, rent model. It's just Nick, can you get me something, a really good, solid return in Glasgow that yields about 8 to 10%. And that's the sort of stuff that I do, because the really good stuff, obviously I buy myself. So that's the way that I work.
Yeah, you're the track record. You're the one.
I'm quite open with people about that. If somebody calls me up and says, can you source us some properties in Glasgow? I'll say, yeah, absolutely. I can get you some cracking buy-to-lets, some great long-term assets that will go up in value, and we'll get great tenants in there, and they'll cash flow you between £250 to £300 a month. And I'll look after the whole lot for you, and you don't need to do a thing. But if you want me to try and find you the holy grail to property investing, then sorry, I can't do that, because that's what I'm trying to do.
Makes sense. I'm just looking at that question. Someone's asking where you find these investors. Now, for me, it's just your network, building up relationships with people who are wanting to get involved in property, or who have got some money that would invest in you. So yeah, it's not a chuck it on social media and people will come flocking to you with money, because you can say you can beat the banks and stuff like that. Yeah, it's basically your relationships and with the people you build up.
I think it comes down to, Stuart was kind of asking for tips today, and how to get investors on board and stuff like that. I think you've got to start with your immediate circle, so your friends, your family. Got to put yourself out there and just say to people what you're doing. Speak with some authority, obviously, and sort of kid on that you kind of, you know what you're talking about and stuff. Because ultimately they are going to be taking a bit of risk, but if you can speak like know what you're doing, then obviously you've got a better chance.
You have to look at what security you can offer your investor as well. If they're lending you money, if it's someone you don't know well, or even if it's somebody you know well, you need to make sure you're giving them security, whether it be a personal guarantee, security on the property, whether it be a first charge or a second charge, if it's in the company, whether a bond, the floating charge stuff. So you make sure you're going to give them security, and obviously show them through online or what you're doing that you've got a track record and you've done it before, and you can do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, just to recap on that, when we talk about security and what security they're getting, right? So this is like, if you buy a property with investor or a joint venture or something like that, then their name's going to be on the title deed, right? So if anything happens and the property gets repossessed and they get paid off, right? They get their money. They're the first ones to get their money back.
Sorry for this. If it's first charge security.
Yeah.
Yes. If it's first charge security, yeah. Second charge. Usually, if you're buying it with a mortgage, the mortgage lender will take first charge security over it. So if you're using the investor's money as a deposit or for the refurb, then they'll only be get second charge. They'll come after the investor. But if you can buy it cash with the investor's money, yeah, they can get first charge.
Yeah.
And obviously they might ask for a personal guarantee on top of that as well. So be careful when you find them as well. Make sure you know what you're doing, because if the only other asset you own is your own home, then legally, if the deal goes tits up and you've lost money, they can technically come after you to sell your own home to pay back the money you're due them.
Yeah, cool. We've got some comments and questions. You want to try and get some people on, see if they'll come on video. If you don't want to come on video, then that's absolutely fine. Just looking through.
I was asking about HMOs in Scotland. Do you want to ask it or chat about it?
Do you want to come on and ask your question about HMOs? Who was that again? Or there's Noreen right at the top. Noreen Preston. What are people thinking about if we are putting in offers just now? What do people think about a safe date of entry? So if you're putting in offers just now, then probably it's going to be usually about, my date of entry is usually vary between about 4 to 6 weeks, probably usually about 6 weeks if it's a standard kind of buy-to-let mortgage that I'm getting. So I think 6 weeks on from now, I think you should be all right.
So it totally depends if your mortgage broker is working right now and how they're, if you're in contact with the lender as well.
Well, that's true, yeah. So you got your solicitor, your mortgage broker, and all that. You need to make sure they're operational and working. But I think you'll be fine if you start putting in offers now, or as soon as lockdown ends. Then you'll be all right. You'll be pretty safe. Noreen, hope that answers your question. If you want to come on,
that's fine. Thanks. I was kind of thinking 6 weeks is safe usually, but now we're nearing a second phase of lockdown. Do we think 6 weeks is safe enough? Yeah.
The seller will probably appreciate that. It's going to be how long's a piece of string. You could say 6 weeks or 8. I think they would take it as a
Noreen, see when you say we're entering a second phase of lockdown, what do you mean by that?
The start of reducing of lockdown. The different phases of easing lockdown.
Yeah, so as Stephen said before, he thought it was the 1st of June that estate agents are starting to open back up from. And I heard landlords and letting agents from the 18th of June. So I guess it's just going to depend as the kind of news drips through and, we're allowed back. But I'm pretty sure 6 weeks from now, I think things will be going through. People will start returning to work in the industry that we're in. So the sectors like solicitors, my solicitor's working from home.
Yeah.
My mortgage broker is working from home. These industries and sectors are still working. It's really just the thing that really got affected for us was the estate agents couldn't do viewings. Basically, that was the biggest kind of block, if you like, in terms of the whole property market. That's really what was kind of holding things up. Have you been looking at anything at all, Noreen? Is there anything?
Yeah, we have. We viewed something on Saturday actually, and we were going to offer on it today, but I just wanted to, or tomorrow, sorry, but I just wanted to run past what people thought was a safe date of entry so that I'm not left unable to complete.
I think the chances are, even if you weren't unable to complete, they would probably just kind of, chances are you'd be able to just kind of hold it and extend it because
they're going to give you leave, aren't they?
Yeah, nobody else is really going to, probably jump in anyway. I would imagine chances are pretty slim. But see that viewing, was it a physical viewing with the estate agent? And
no, estate agent, no, just vendor. I mean, it was through an estate agent, but they were pretty lax about the rules, shall we say. And we arrived all, masks and gloves and everything. And I said to him, how do you feel? Do you feel comfortable? What do you want me to do? Do you want to go back into the hall and I'll come in? And I think he's so desperate to sell that he didn't care. He was just like, no, come on in, fire away. And it was a bit poor, to tell you the truth. But
there's a motivated seller.
Yeah.
I know. Well, that's it, and unfortunately, you just don't know people's circumstances. Yeah. Some people will be in a desperate position to sell, possibly,
Mm-hmm.
So, well, there you go. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. All the best. And we've been in touch with our broker and our solicitor, so in terms of that, it should all be fine.
Noreen, whereabouts are you, and where do you kind of invest?
Glasgow.
Glasgow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, it's nice to meet you, Noreen. And
yes.
Thanks for coming on. We'll look out for you in the future.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
We can quickly go over this HMO question. It's popped up a couple of times, I think. I mean, I'm no expert in HMO, but the way I see an HMO is down in England, where you can get, a decent Victorian terrace house or end terrace house that have got 4 bedrooms. You can change the layout to get a 5th or a 6th in it. Renting these rooms out per night and the property value that they come in at, you can actually get a fantastic yield and they'll cash flow hugely. Whereas the only places that this strategy would seem to work in Scotland would be your West End, Glasgow, City Centre, Edinburgh, Dundee, West End, where the university is, and all these properties are very highly priced. So when you actually look at your renting properties per room, the yield's just as low as a normal buy-to-let. So it doesn't make sense trying to jump through all the HMO regulations to get the same kind of yield or less and have more management costs and more maintenance costs.
What was the actual question, Stephen? Was it? What was it?
How does HMO not work so well in Scotland?
Yeah, well, I just think that if you look at the HMO market, like you said, it's predominantly students. For some reason, I don't know why that is. It's just, I look down in England and I think, well, why would it not work in Scotland for the professional market? And then I look around at the housing stock and I think, well, it's very difficult to get, down in England, they can get these sort of terrace houses that you can divvy them up into 8, 9 bedrooms and stuff like that. In Glasgow, around about the kind of city centre, West End areas, then it's mainly, really, you'll get kind of 4-bedroom, your largest flats will be 4 to 6 bedrooms, and possibly, there's not even that many 6 bedrooms, mainly 4 bedrooms for the HMO. And I just think once you start doing all the renovations and all the costs and the actual price that you need to pay for the property at the start, so like a 4-bedroom flat in the West End of Glasgow, you're probably talking about, minimum, just off the top of my head, 250 to 300 grand, you know what I mean? To probably 250. And then you think to yourself, well, is that actually, if you're going to rent that out at, say, £450 a room, 450 times 4 doesn't actually, it's not actually that more amazing than a straightforward buy-to-let cottage flat for, say, 70, 80,000 that you can rent out for £600 a month. Do you know what I mean? The yields aren't that much higher. So what's really the point in having all the legislation, the regulation, and the council coming out to check you and your HMO licenses and all the rest of
it? Alexander Cunningham, do you want to come on and ask your question? It's a good question, mate.
Hi there, how you getting on?
Hi mate, how you doing?
Hi, good. It's just I've found a couple of properties on my street. I'd be a first time buyer. They're off market and I was just wondering if I'd be able to get a first time buyer's mortgage on it.
Yeah, totally. Plans to use it as a flip?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. It's a good strategy to use. You can get in with obviously a lesser deposit and no capital gains when you finally go to sell it. So yeah, no, completely.
Do you think there would be a limit on how many properties I could do that with?
One. You can only do it one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time. But yeah, I think, are you meaning how many times you can get away with keep recycling, repeat that process?
Yeah.
Well, technically, if you say that's your place of residence, then who are they to say differently?
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, if you sell it by the other one with the same deposit, or obviously you won't get a first-time buyer's mortgage. You may have to put down a little bit more of deposit. But yeah, there's no reason why it couldn't be a place of residence. But you add the value through the flip and then flip it on. 6 months to a year's time. They generally say a year you're meant to stay in a place to sell it to kind of prove it's your place of residence. But I don't think it's a hard and fact.
And obviously the advantages are if it's your main residence, you don't need to pay capital gains tax as well.
Yeah.
That's a good strategy.
So Alexander, give us a little bit about yourself then. What age are you? Have you bought anything? This is going to be your very first property?
It'll be my first property. I'm 18, living in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And I'm just I'm getting a job with my uncle and his heating engineering business.
Good man.
Kind of helped me off financially, and then just try and get into property.
Mate, you are so lucky to have these resources at your fingertips right now. YouTube, whatever. Just you're obviously educating yourself and finding out, how to use your money, the best way possible to get yourself, a head start in life and get on this property journey and stuff like that. And you sound like you've got your head screwed on. So get out there, get working, get a bit of money saved up, and get your first property. Just go out and get it, man.
Right, mate, good luck.
Right, thanks very much.
Good, mate. Kelly, do you want to come on and ask your question?
18. What were you doing when you were 18, Stephen?
I was on £4 fixed my first property.
My God. Yeah. I think I did buy my first property at 19, but
What's your Inverness one?
Yeah, the Inverness one, which was that was a reason, like I said before in the podcast, went up over 4 or 5 years. It went up 70 grand. What timing that was. Yeah.
We've got an age-old question coming from Kelly's here. You okay asking it, Kelly?
Yeah, I've asked a couple of questions. What one were you talking about?
Just fire ahead. Give us the ball.
So my husband and I are starting out from complete scratch. He's had a couple of businesses in the past, so he's kind of got that mindset, and I don't. And we were just wondering if from right at the very start, we should go in with a limited company right away.
What's the strategy? Is it planning on buying and flipping, or buying and holding, or?
So we're just planning on, to start with, just buying and holding on to them and renting them out to start with.
Are you both working full time? And it also would depend on advice from your accountant as well, because the people who are really affected by the Section 24, the tax changes, where you cannot basically deduct your what do you call it? Your interest payment on your mortgage. The ones that are really badly affected by that are people who are in the higher rate tax bracket. So that's why a lot of people migrated investing over from their personal names into limited company, because of obviously the tax advantages. Because a lot of people were going to be losing out big time if they kept them in their personal name. So really, it depends on your your income really, and your accountant really needs to look at it. I don't know if you really want to share too much on here, but I would say
I work part-time and my husband works full-time in the bank, so I think we're kind of average.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on how much you want to add to the portfolio as well. If it's just a couple, it might top you up to maximise your tax position, but if it's going to be a decent sized portfolio you want to generate income from, then I think it makes sense to go from a limited company straight from the off now.
I think that's our goal in the long run, is to be able to stop what we're both doing and do this full time.
I would probably say go limited company right from the start, because then you can make yourself then you can get on the payroll on your limited company, then start paying yourself out through that, and then you can pay yourself dividends as well.
Yeah.
Tax efficient way of taking money back out, certainly.
If you
money in the company.
If it's just like one or two properties, then I would probably say personal name. But if you've really got big goals for this and you're going to build it and scale it up into a proper decent sized portfolio, then definitely limited company.
Great, thanks very much.
No problem. Did you have any other questions as well? Because that was the only one I saw there.
I'm trying to think what my other one was. I can't remember what my other one was just now. It's gone away from the list.
No problem at all.
I'll type it back in if I remember.
Kelly, whereabouts are you investing? Whereabouts are you in the country?
So we live in Dalkeith in Edinburgh.
Good.
But we've been looking at properties in Hawick. We've got a couple of people that we've been in touch with who are selling their portfolios, which obviously we're not doing because that's a lot of there's here. But they're happy to split them up into groups of properties. So we're thinking about buying maybe 2 or 3, but most of the ones we've been looking at are in Hawick at the moment.
We'll see your portfolios, Kelly. I mean, Stephen loves his portfolios. He talked at the start of the year about focusing on portfolios, because he believes that you're putting in roughly the same work anyway. So why would you not go for these bigger deals and save yourself and all the work involved building up the single units? Like, if you're saying, obviously, if you think that's out your reach, just now, which, it might be if you're really starting out, but in future, if these deals come across your lap that people are selling their portfolios, certainly reach out to us. We might be able to hook you up with somebody, or come in somewhere and help, or else reach out to your circle, family, friends, and if you're really serious about building this as well, you might want to look at kind of private financing, people who are able to come in and help fund those deals, because that's exactly what Stephen's doing. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
No,
yep.
Perfect.
All right.
I'll keep that in mind.
Good. Well, it's great to have you on. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Kieran, do you want to ask your question, mate?
Yeah, nice one, Stephen. So me and my girlfriend, we're thinking of making our first investment, but we don't want to just buy a house on emotion. It wants to be an investment, and we can release equity and we can go again. It will be both of our first purchases. So I've seen a property, I know the end value, or I'd like to think I know the end value. but it does need a big refurb. How cheeky do you go with that first offer, and do you back it up with your comparables, or do you just go in with the offer and just leave them to it?
You can certainly back up with your justification and why you're lowballing offer with, you know, it needs kitchen, bathroom, central heating, whatever it needs. You can kind of lowball them and say, look, the reason why I'm offering such a low price is X, Y, and Z. So yeah, you can still offer low and justify it with your means of what you're going to do to the property. Yeah, no, definitely.
I think it definitely helps when you are justifying your offer, because it helps things with the relationship with the agent, because otherwise they just kind of think, oh, it's just another twat or just another chancer. Do you know what I mean? But if you actually come across and you sound like you know what you're talking about and you've got a clear plan, then they're probably going to respect you a bit more. I don't know.
Appreciate that.
Where's the property that you're looking at, Kieran?
Manchester. Well, it's on the Ring Road. So yeah, just outside of Manchester.
Manchester was certainly booming there for a while.
Yeah, there's still plenty of opportunity as well on the outskirts. The city centre's pretty much capped, but the outskirts, there's plenty of opportunity still.
I mean, like, sorry, Stephen, on you go.
No, I was just going to say thanks for asking the question.
I was in Manchester right at the start of the year for a Manchester City game. I took my wee boy down to see Man City play, and I was just shocked at how much building there was, like construction going on around the city. It was absolutely amazing. There was a real buzz about the place, you know. So, and obviously it gets promoted quite heavily on the Two Robs podcasts as somewhere, you know, hotspot to invest. You know, kind of north of England, kind of powerhouse sort of thing. But yeah, all the best of luck with that. And it's nice to get some English listeners. Actually, me and Steve were talking about this before. We were looking at our stats for our listeners, and we've got loads of listeners down in London, believe it or not. So I think that's people who are, interested in investing in the Scottish market. I think they think there's good bargains to be had.
Just to add to that while I'm still off mute, similar to Kelly's question, I do want to grow a portfolio and I'm quite ambitious and want to get to a good number. In that respect, would you get your first one in your own name but then go limited company, or?
Limited company would be your preferred option for your holding and your assets. Yeah, but if you're like Alexander was saying earlier on, if you can utilise your kind of capital gains allowance and the smaller deposits you need to put down for your own names, you can do it in your own personal names to keep building your pot. Buying one, renovating it, selling it on, get a bit of profit. Then eventually, when you've got your own one, you can then put some money as a direct component in your limited company to kick off your investment. So yeah, there's various ways of doing it.
Cheers, dude. Cheers, Nick.
Cheers for that.
Cheers, man. All the best. Somebody said here, Robert Kane said, guys, really enjoying the podcast. New to the property, started last October. Had a light bulb moment last week when discovered an investor isn't named on title, just named as first charge, and then remortgage in 6 months with no names changed on title. Light bulb moment. So like, this is the great thing, because I'm learning like every day from the group as well, because there was a question asked about just last couple of days. It was buy and rent back. So I think it was Jamie Curry came on, and this was a really interesting thread, and loads of people commented. And something I actually wasn't aware of, that this is pretty much illegal in Scotland to do this, buy a property and rent it back, because a lot of people were abusing it with vulnerable people. And once people started posting the news articles to people that had been doing it and basically scamming folk and ripping people off, then I kind of understood why it was kind of, frowned upon. But something I learned as well, so it's great knowledge.
Neil, do you have, I think Neil's commented about HMOs, he's got some in central Edinburgh. Do you have HMOs in Edinburgh? No. I thought that was what you were referring to when I seen the thread there. I was like, oh, get Neil on, pick his brain.
It must be another Neil. When I commented that, I know people in Belfast have got a few HMOs,
right,
and they're effectively renting rooms are at 425, but you can get a 2-bed house for 450, and that's why it doesn't work. So you can have a kitchen, a living room, 2 bedrooms, 2 people share, far cheaper than paying 425. And I find the same in Scotland.
Yeah,
HMOs in these kind of areas, Northern Ireland, Scotland, generally low benefits. because they just don't work. And anybody rich enough to pay for a higher rent wants their own house.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think maybe the only way, or the only argument against that one would be sometimes HMOs are including the bills, council tax and utilities, whereas renting the house at the same kind of price range, you're still going to come up with your council tax and utilities as well. But yeah, no, you're right. I think it's two similar price levels.
John Loudon said about the HMO, is it not the licensing that makes HMO more challenging? Well, yeah, obviously, I think they've got licensing in England as well, but I don't know. I think there was a number.
It's a lot stricter in Scotland. That's the big difference between the English HMOs and the Scottish one. The process for applying for it as well takes quite a long time, and the council have to send someone around to the property, give you a big long list of all the things that they need to do, and then during the time, that you can change all these things, they put out a letter to all the neighbours as well, and they can reject an application for an HMO license. So it's quite a sort of lengthy process, and there's no guarantees you'll get one, and it just makes the whole process a little bit trickier. And if you're buying a property on the kind of hope that you're getting an HMO, there's no kind of guarantees, and I think that puts a lot of landlords off. I look after a few through my letting agency, but I've got a 3-bed in central Edinburgh, which would be perfect for an HMO, but it's actually better as a service accommodation. It gets better rent like that. So
you see, John, this is great to have you on, having the actual first-hand experience. So is there how in England you see all these like professional marketed HMOs for like young professionals and that? Is there much a market in Edinburgh for that, or is it mainly students?
Well, you're asking me, Nick.
Sorry. No, was that not John that was on?
No, that was myself.
Sorry, I can't see that. Was that Neil?
Yeah, that's Neil. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there is one specialist company in Edinburgh that does, I think it's Southside Management. They do room by room. So, for example, when I rent out an HMO, I basically just rent out the whole property to, say, a group of 3 or 4 or 5 students. But there is a company, like I said, Southside Management, that specialise in doing renting out properties room by room.
Right.
But to me, that just seems like more hassle than it's worth.
What sort of price could you get?
I've got a 3-bed HMO student property in Marchmont, which gets... I've got it advertised right now because I was meant to have people in for the festival, but obviously that's all cancelled now. But from September through June, for a 3-bed, I get about 1650, 1700 a month.
And how's the PRT affected you then? Obviously, with these student HMOs and stuff like that. With obviously used to sign them up for 12 months. How's that now? How's it working for you?
So what I've had to say to landlords is that essentially the whole jumping from doing a student let to the short-term lets for August, which was the most profitable way of doing it for these kind of properties, you can't really guarantee it. So we're essentially just saying to landlords, look, we're going to try and do it. We're going to try and negotiate with the tenants and say, look, we know that ideally, basically we'll say to them when they take it, look, can you take the property from September through to June or around and about that time? And we'll actually put it on the lease that the tenancy is from September until June. Although if they were to take me to the PRT, they would be able to, say we don't have to move out in June. But it's just a case of saying to them up front, like, look, we want the property back in June. If you're agreeable, then, they take the property on that pretense. And it's worked every time so far. But if a tenant was to say, I know my rights, I don't want to move out of the property for the summer, they could drag their heels and say, we're not moving out.
Excellent. It's good to get your knowledge. Neil, whereabouts? So you're in Edinburgh. What's your surname so I can look out for you, mate?
Yeah, Chatham.
Neil Chatham. And what is that? But what that room looks really interesting. It's like
I'm at my parents' house right now. Yeah, it's all wooden walls.
Neil, good to see you.
Yeah, cheers.
Take care, man. Anybody else?
Kelly's asking what capital gains is. So basically, if Matt, I'm no accountant, but if you purchase a property, at £70,000, £80,000 and spend X amount on it, the amount of uplift you've got in value in the property, you'll pay capital gains tax on that value increase. And I think if you're a lower rate taxpayer, it's 20%. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, I believe it's 28%. And hope that explained it even more.
That was pretty good, mate. Yeah, it's basically the difference in. Yeah, I think you explained it perfectly there.
Cool. Jerry Alexander's asking you, Nick, how's the rents been coming in for the landlords under this, current
Okay,
contract?
yeah, I'll give you an update on that. So I think I'm up to about 89 properties now on the on the lettings side of things. So I've got my own properties. I think I've got 9, and then the 80 other ones are managed for all my landlord clients. So we still get one that hasn't paid anything at all, and he's now sitting at 2 full months in rent arrears. His excuse the last time was that he was still waiting for his employer to pay the furlough payments. He was supposed to be furloughed, but the employer still hadn't got round to getting the money in, which seems very slow. Luckily, the landlord's actually got rent guarantee insurance on that one, so that's not too much of a stress. But obviously chasing that one and working with the guy, he did say he was going to put a payment in, which is due any day now, actually. And again, when they fall into arrears, everything's got to be paid back. So once all this, comes to an end and people are able to start going back to work, hopefully, then there'll be payment plans put in place for tenants, and we'll need to claw that back. That's the biggest kind of case. The other ones that I've got, probably about 4 or 5 who haven't been able to pay the full rent, that have maybe paid 75 to 80% because of one thing or another. I've got one guy who was self-employed, and he was a self-employed bathroom fitter. He's paying about 70% of the rent. He isn't eligible for universal credit because the wife, she has got a full-time income, but they've got 4 kids, so they were really struggling. So landlords agreed to a reduced rent, and again, there's a shortfall of about £300 a month there, and that is getting added up. That's probably £600. It'll be coming up for £900. So again, the longer this lockdown goes on and this sort of decreased rent payments keep going, the higher the rent arrears are getting, obviously. And we're just hoping that this is coming to an end now, because likes the bathroom fitter guy, he's basically saying that, and I kind of believe him because he was doing quite well before lockdown happened. He's basically saying that he's got jobs to go back into straight away, and obviously it's just a case you could probably turn a bathroom round in a week and then get payment, and then he's going to be sitting quite good again. So he's going to be making overpayments when he starts earning again, and it's just a case of managing it moving forward. So yeah, out of 89 properties, I've probably got 5 with problems, but again, furlough thing's been extended till October, I think. People got their payments in for their self-employed. The self-employed, people, they got the payments in. I know people that were getting like 5-6 grand put in their bank account. So that's all good.
It's good, mate. Good positive update there.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through any other questions.
I think, once again, Stephen, if you look through the chat, and I'll just speak a little bit about the future, the kind of economic situation.
Yeah.
I think the real thing is going to be, obviously, once the lockdown ends and furlough payments, ends, then I think businesses, that's when they're going to face the reality of what is actually, going to happen now to employees and staff. And that's when you could potentially, things could start getting worse for landlords, and higher rates of unemployment. And we were speaking to Bill Irvin, who's the universal credit expert, and that's our last podcast that we just put out. And we're saying universal credit's going to be as big as it's ever been, because there is going to be higher employment rate coming up, and there is going to be lots of people claiming for universal credit, and that's going to be the key to getting a lot of landlords through this as well. So have a listen to that podcast.
Yep. Got a question in there from Kelly again that's talking about, should you manage the rents from the start, or should you wait for a few properties? Now, this is up to your own personal kind of desires and what you want out of property, and what your mindset and your skill set is as well. Obviously, myself and Nick are at complete opposite spectrums here, because I'm a landlord investor, but I send all mine to a letting agent, and Nick owns a letting agent and runs a letting agent, but beforehand he was a self-managing landlord. So it's probably people's personal perceptions of it, and what you think you do. I think did Jamie Curry mention this on the group just recently? It was quite a good thread, actually. There's quite a few different people's opinions on it, so you're probably better just reading through that, actually.
Yeah, Jamie posted a couple of days ago. He was thinking, I think it was his dad's has got a bit of time. He invests with his dad, him and his dad's got a bit of time, and he was basically saying about, there was questions were related to kind of self-managing, so him advertising for tenants. He has an electrical company, so he's an electrician to trade. He's obviously well connected with all the tradesmen, so he's got the maintenance covered side of things. The only thing that my advice to him was to get clued up on the legislation front, because over the last couple of years, there's so much legislation that's kicked in. And, it's changing all the time. Like, they just put through an emergency coronavirus bill, basically through Parliament there, that said that you can't evict a tenant for rent arrears for 6 months. And also they put through a second bill, which was quite a scary one, because the Green Party came in and said that they had clauses in there that basically said that, landlords wouldn't be able to put rents up and all that for 2 years. Luckily that didn't go through. But, it's an ever-changing thing. Yeah. And, my advice to any self-managing landlord would be sign up for Scottish Association of Landlords first and foremost. It's £95 for the year, and they send you out emails, anytime there's changes. For example, like fire alarms. It used to be that you used to have to get smoke alarms in the properties that were all hardwired and interlinked. Now they only need to be interlinked. You can have battery operated ones. Do you know what I mean? So things like that, they're always changing.
Changes regularly. If someone ever asked me this, the one thing I always say is, do you want the phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning when your tenant comes home steaming drunk and locked herself at the flat? Because that's your letting agent's perspective. If not, you're getting your fucking out your jammies, putting your clothes on and driving there with a spare key, you open up, and I'm like, no, fuck that. Pay the 50 quid a month, whatever it costs me. I mean, I'd done a wee bit of self-managing at the start, and no matter what the issue was, they phoned at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night as you're away to sit down and have a beer or a glass of wine or whatever it was, and it was like every fucking time. Well, and I thought, I don't want to be a landlord, I want to be the investor that's grown this portfolio. And that, to me, and like Nick says as well, like the legislation that changes so often, do you want to have that as your job to keep up to date with that and make sure that, and I don't think I've got the temperament to deal with people that were trying to rip you off and not pay your rent. I don't think my ginger hair temperament deals with people.
Sorry guys, I just got a text there from a tenant to say they've got a blocked toilet. I'm going to need to go, by the way.
What time is it? Oh, I'm actually spot on there then. 9 o'clock.
No. See, the thing is, right, you will get, I mean, most of my tenants are brand new. They're really good. They don't bother me with too much, but you will get, the occasional ones, a lot of the younger generation as well. They just panic at everything, and they're just like on the phone. They just don't know what to do. They're getting, stressed about stuff. Usually it's like, I've lost my keys and stuff like that. Now, obviously, I've got spare sets of keys. I can come right in my house and pick them up. It's like, because I'm quite small, that's the way I operate. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't really get stressed about it, and but I can understand how a lot of people can.
Someone asked a question, like I couldn't see it again. I'm asked what the PLT was. I'm assuming they were referring to the PRT. Do you want to give a quick explanation of it?
So the PRT, yeah, sorry guys if we're giving you all this jargon here. Just like shout out like somebody has done. The PRT is the private residential tenancy. It's basically the rental agreement between the landlord and the tenant, or the lease. It's the lease. And this changed a couple of years ago. I think it was the tail end of 2017, December 2017. They changed it from a short assured tenancy agreement, which was the previous one. Now, there's loads of changes, but the biggest change is basically that prior to the PRT, you would be able to sign up a tenant for 6 months usually. So they would have the contract for 6 months, and then it would be up to the landlord, the tenant, if they decided to renew that. Now, basically with the new PRT, it keeps rolling until the tenant hands in notice, or else the landlord wants to evict on it could be any one of 18 different grounds. for eviction or notice to leave. So, you know, it's personally, I don't think it's, you know, there's a lot of people, a lot of negative views out there, but personally, I think there's no doubt about it. It does go in favour of the tenant, right? There's no doubt about it. It does definitely side with the tenant, the new PRT, but you've just got to get on with it and just make the best of it. And I just think if you're doing your
2 years now, is it, Nick?
So since the PRT kicked in,
Yeah, is it 2 years or 3 years now?
it was December 2017, I think. So
Yeah.
that'll be.
So now that's kind of, you've got the teething problems. Are you finding it better than the old self-assured self-assured tenants?
It's a bit of a pain in the arse because, like you said before, you know, you could tie in people for 12-month periods before, and that was quite good for student lets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, you can get. I've heard stories of tenants moving into properties now. They can actually hand in notice at any point. So on the first day, if they don't like the property, or if they see a spider or something in the sink, then they can basically just phone up and say, no, I need out of this property, and here's your 28 days notice, and then you've got to remarket the property. So I think it has increased the turnover, and obviously that results in a direct cost to the landlord if they need to remarket it. If they have the property line empty for a couple of weeks, you know, they could have extra voids and stuff like that. So I think it has increased voids, it has increased turnaround, but you know, we're lumbered with it. We've got it. We just need to roll with it. They're talking down in England, I think, changing their system, I think, as well. I think we were the kind of guinea pigs.
Yeah. I've got a question here, Jim. I'll direct it to you, Nick. It's from Jim Kuzak. He says, what would you do with around 60, 70 grand at the moment, small or large project?
60, 70 grand. Well, I personally just love buy-to-let and long-term investing. So I would try and keep recycling the money. So that is the strategy that you'll see, which a lot of people talk about on YouTube and all the channels, are buy, renovate, rent and refinance.
Yeah, it's my favourite one as well, to be fair.
Yeah, so basically you're trying to get the property that you can add value to, right? So you're trying to find something that's a shithole, that's run down, that you can pretty much do a full refurb and justify the uplift in value. So say you buy the property for 50 grand, you spend 15 on it, and then, you know, you're hoping the value will be somewhere in it, I don't know, say 90 or something like that. You know, and then you'll hopefully get your initial investment back out, and then you can go again. Don't be too caught up. You know, if you're leaving £5,000 to £10,000 in the property, then that's quite normal as well now in the market pre-lockdown. Stephen, you weren't taking all your money back out of everything, were you?
Yeah, I usually get all my money back out of them, yeah. Well, particularly my Aberdeen deals at the moment, certainly. Sometimes I'll do.
You're good.
Did you jump on there and say something?
Yeah, I said that's because you're good at this.
Experience. I'm just going to try to read the chat at the same time. Neil's jumped in with Article 4 on HMOs, and I'm not even going to pretend to know what it is. I've kind of read up on it a little bit, but I'm no expert on
what's this? Anyone considering HMO or buying HMO, look out for Article 4. Many new fees. Council now looking at council tax for each room. All right.
Article 4 still in Scotland as well. I've heard it a lot in England, but
so this is basically him saying that council tax can be charged per room now. So if you've got a tenant that's, you know, if you've got a void room in an HMO, you're going to be billed for council tax. I don't really know. I don't manage any HMOs. It's not a thing.
Nick, you'll get the council tax bill while the tenant's living there. It's not like a tenant. It is mainly England at the minute through their VAOA. But if you were thinking investing like me, where I invest over here and invest over there, I might invest in England. And you don't know these things. Lots of landlords, and they're just changing them, and they're taking the appeals, they're going through all the rest of it, and they're just getting totally stuffed. And they're being told, no, you owe us. There was one guy, I think, got something like £38,000 tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's fighting it. But he only got it about 2 months ago, I think.
Cool, something to look out for. Thanks for bringing it up, Neil.
Kieran confirmed that he phoned his landlord at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night to get the German cockroaches. See, always a Sunday at 8 p.m.
I actually quite enjoy dealing with that stuff, to be honest with you.
Do you know what? In all fairness, I don't mind dealing with it. I think for me personally, it's when tenants take the piss and they don't pay the rent. I don't think I've got the temperament to deal with someone that you can clearly know. They know the system and they know they're paying you minimal, so you can't evict them. I think the type of people annoy me too much that I wouldn't want to deal with them.
You're putting in a call to the boys to get them round the door.
Usually it's myself going around that. That's when I start doing it. I've got a question from Kelly there. It's harder or easier to get a buy-to-let in your local area, or is it just easy to look in different cities? Well, they generally say that you start off investing in your own area because you know the area very well, and it's easier for you to do your research, because bearing in mind that we'll all know streets in our own area, but at one end of the streets, completely different price, market, tenant from one end to the other end, and it can vary. And you'd only really know that if you had like local knowledge. So yeah, a lot of people say when you're starting out, it's a lot better to invest in your local area closer to home. But for me personally, recently, about a year and a half ago, I started investing in Aberdeen, which is 2 hours away from me, and anything I'm adding to my own portfolio is all in Aberdeen at the moment. And I think it made it easier for me to outsource. I couldn't keep a rein on the maintenance issues. I couldn't keep a rein on the refurbs because I'm 2 hours away, so I have to outsource it to try and get like a building team in place, and obviously I had to get a trusted letting agent, management agent in the area as well to make sure that they're completely dealing with it. So I'm hands off.
Cool. There's a question that got sent to me here privately, so I'll not mention his name just in case he doesn't want me to, because it says privately. But he says, is there a limit to how long you need to wait after buying a property before asking lender for consent to let? So I have passed affordability on a second property purchase with RBS, but want to rent it eventually. Is this class as mortgage fraud? Well, no, consent to let happens all the time. In terms of the original question about, is there a time scale for it? You definitely check with your mortgage broker. I don't actually know the answer to that. I'm thinking no. I don't think there is.
Was that a question on the time you can do
it? Aye, so he's asking how long you need to wait, and after buying a property until you get the consent to let. Because if you think about it, circumstances could change. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You can get a new job, you relocate, and need to get a consent to let when you move away. Yeah. So that
exactly.
It depends on the bigger picture. If you're looking to add to the portfolio, you're only going to get away with that one or two times before they're still going to start to raise their eyebrows up.
I suppose. But with the consent to let, if you buy your property, then you consent to let, then you can't go and buy another property with a residential mortgage anyway. If you held that property, then your next property would be a buy-to-let mortgage.
Can you not? I thought you could buy another property as a second home if you've got a consent to let on one, and then buy another one as a place of residence. I thought you could, but I think you can only get away with it once, I think.
Yeah, right. Okay, right. You could, yeah.
I think I'm not sure.
Speak to a good mortgage broker on that one. I can put you in touch with one. Again, if you need somebody to speak to on the mortgages side of things, then you've got Kessler Salimi, who's good. He's on our Facebook group, and he could answer that sort of question. Sorry, I can't give you a specific answer to that.
I think
tenant can move in Monday. I think there's a bit of chat back and forth.
Some feedback on that there, yeah. Okay,
Jamie McCready said, my flat's 6 months for consent to let with NatWest. All right, okay. So I guess it will depend on each lender, but definitely check with your broker if that's your plan, and they'll keep you right. A good mortgage broker is crucial, guys. We talk about this power team thing, and your solicitor, your mortgage broker. I say mortgage broker's definitely up there, one of the most important to, if you've got big goals for property investing, then you want to get somebody who really knows and understands your kind of strategies and what you're trying to do. For sure.
I think that's the questions so far.
Anybody else want to jump in here? That's us been on for an hour and a quarter.
Guys, can I say a wee thing here?
Go for it, John.
Yeah.
Music here again, guys. By the way, this is my second one I've been on. It's absolutely brilliant.
Cheers, man.
Thanks very much for inviting us on,
Cheers,
Stevie,
mate.
again.
No problem, pal.
Top man, bro. Guys, I've got a few properties now, but I still consider myself a novice. I've got 3. My residential, 2 I rent out, buy-to-lets, and 1 commercial. I'm pretty keen on the commercial side as well. I just think, and I can see Jerry Alexander on there. I've became quite a fan of you as well, Jerry, following what you do. Can I ask, does anybody know a really good top-class commercial surveyor in this area?
Jerry, you want to answer?
What area are you in, mate? What
He's in
area?
Dunfermline.
Well, I'm in Fife, mate. I'm in Dunfermline, the same as Stevie, but
Okay.
just nobody seems to be keen on commercial, and it's someone I think.
What specifically are you trying to do? You try to buy more commercial property and get a surveyor.
I mean, I want a surveyor that can kind of help and really advise you and tell you when things are coming up, and will give you a shout.
Are you on? I think we don't really have a lot of these guys on the group, to be honest with you. But you know,
Jerry done a podcast on it a few weeks back on finding your next commercial deal, and it was talking about touching base with commercial agents and just giving them a phone and getting yourself known to them and getting yourself known about who they're, what you're looking for and what you're looking to buy. So guys like DM
Jerry's
Hall.
still on. Jerry, you want to come on for a wee couple of minutes? I don't know if he's still here.
I'm still here. I'm probably on the back page, Nick. I keep dropping out for some reason.
On you go, Jerry.
Keep kicking me off.
Don't know if you've got anything to add here.
Well, I mean, I know some of the guys in Fife. It's always hard to try and break in. That's the problem. You've just got to be persistent. And it does depend on what you're after. If you're after properties, then sometimes finding a local agent, perhaps one that's even actually in their own business, is best, because they tend to be keener. They tend to have it as a long-term, it's their company. So basically they're going to be staying at it long-term. So they want to build up relationships. I found the ones that have been there for a long time, it's quite difficult to engage with them. I have to say though, because circumstances are now changing because of what's been happening in the economy, you will find some of them will actually start returning your calls now, which is, often unheard of.
Yeah, I got chased up the property I viewed last week. First one I saw in months was from a commercial agent. They were chasing me up to view this property that I inquired about.
Yeah, well, when things have changed when they start phoning you. Yeah, at least for me anyway. Often they just don't return your calls. The secretary doesn't even return their calls. And you just find, do these guys actually want to sell anything? But of course, you have to think, at the end of the day, that's the silver lining, isn't it? Because if they're not phoning you, they're probably not phoning anybody else. So if you're persistent, you actually get through. There's less competition.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's just a case of possibly getting out there to networking a bit and getting on LinkedIn. I find LinkedIn useful for these type of professions. Try and get involved in that. Are you on LinkedIn at all, Jim?
I am. It's not something I use much, but yeah, I'm on there, mate.
There's good guys from Steppers, Allies, DM Hall and stuff like that in Dunfermline that are pretty good. They'll get back to you and offer your opinion and stuff as well.
Jim, I'll bung my LinkedIn thingy on the chat if that's
Either that, I can drop an introduction to him for you if you want, Jerry.
Yeah, please do. I know most of them in Fife. I think I do. So I could talk you through, who's where and what's what.
Appreciate that, mate. Cheers.
Just out of interest, Jim, what sort of commercial property are you looking at? What's your kind of strategy, or what you're looking at doing?
Do you know what, Nick? I'm not really 100% sure, mate. I like the ideas of shopping uppers and things like that. I mean, months ago I done a course. I kind of got roped into a Paul Smith course, and it was a commercial. I don't know if I'm sure you do know Paul Smith, but it was a great course, and it just, I just think the opportunity in commercial is massive. I think I'm quite lucky with my cash flow and all that as well, so I just think I can make something. I want to build a massive portfolio, and I've got buy-to-lets and
But as Jerry talks about, commercial property is such a vast space, obviously Jerry's got a really interesting model, which is quite, that's really interesting, especially at this time in the economy as well, where people are going to be looking to kind of save costs on sharing workspace and stuff like that. So I don't know, just obviously be careful. I don't invest in commercial property, so this is not advice, but obviously be careful about, retail spaces and things like that,
Brilliant. Appreciate it, lads.
Goes to online, the looks of things.
Sorry, Nick, I'm just going to jump in on the...
Nice bathroom.
Do you like that? That's one of my client bathrooms. I've done that as a wee bit of promotion.
Nice.
So just on the
coming in behind it.
the consent to lease for RBS, that's how I built my portfolio. So if I shared my story, it might help the person that asked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm no expert, don't pretend to be, and I've not worked for RBS for some time. But when I worked there, I played the system. And what I would do is get my 10%, pay it with my credit card, do the mortgage application, and they would say, "Where's your deposit, son?" "I've already paid it." And they'd be like, "All right, cool." And then I would do the property up, make my one payment. Next day, I would phone them up, "Boom, more money, please." Get the more money through, get the 90% because it's down as a personal mortgage, and then go, "Right, consent to lease, £120. Right, okay, no bother. Next one, personal mortgage. Are you sure? You've got a couple of these buy-to-lets now. I just don't like them. I get them and I do them up and then I don't like them. And then I change my mind. They cannot call you a liar.
Right.
You can lie through your teeth, but they cannot call you a liar.
Yeah.
And that's how I built my portfolio. Until the point they phoned me one day and said, "Mr. Riley, how did you manage this?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? You've got 10 times your annual salary and mortgages with us. How did you manage this?" I asked and you gave me it, was my answer. And then I had to start putting my wife's name. After that, well, she wasn't my wife then, but she is now. So you can play the system, if you like, if you know what you're doing, unless it's changed since I left RBS, but that's how I built mine.
Well, do you know what? It's all about everybody's got a different, view on it, right? But obviously what you're telling us there, I mean, it's obviously worked for you and you're sitting where you are just now, but I think we need to be careful. Obviously, guys, if you're starting out, certainly, that could work, but definitely seek professional advice on it as well, because we don't want you to, and, John Paul said right at the start there, he's not advising anybody to do that, but we really appreciate you sharing that, and obviously it's worked for you.
It's just my story.
Yeah.
And that's how I went from having to move out. I rented the property I owned because I couldn't afford it anymore from a longer story, to building 6 or 7 properties in like 18 months.
Yeah. When was that you did? So you were sort of doing that process?
2010 until 2013, I did the last one. And then I changed tactics to start my own company and put them in the back burner for a while there.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And obviously, guys, as always, this is not advice. The disclaimer is please do your own due diligence.
Yeah, I was just telling my story. That's all I told there was my story, not telling anyone to go and do it. But you can get consent to lease fairly easy. It's 120 quid with the Royal Bank, I believe, and they don't really check anything. They're that busy. They just go, "Okay, yep, you need to pay that. That's fine."
And how long were you waiting? But was there a time frame that you were waiting, or were you doing this sort of straight away, or how long?
So I was literally making one mortgage payment, and then the next day phoning up for a further borrowing on the property, saying that I was doing them up, and I've run up credit card debts for that, and I wanted to clear them off. But really, the credit card debt I had was the deposit I was paying for with the property, and nobody ever questioned it until I got to 10 times my annual salary.
Right. Okay. But when you're asking for additional borrowing, do they not send out? Do they not want to send out a valuer, a surveyor to?
Yeah. But if you've just done the property up, you've spent the 3-4 weeks doing it up, so you're not necessarily have a tenant in there yet.
Okay. So effectively, you were doing the buy, renovate, rent, refinance, but you were doing it with residential mortgages, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay.
And then converting them to buy to let.
Then getting the consent to let, and then it would effectively become a buy to let.
Did you convert them to buy to lets once the equity grew up then, John Paul?
Pardon?
Did you convert them to buy to lets once equity grew up over the last few years? Like,
I just done it there and then, and I just left them to sit.
Right.
So, but it meant I got 90% of the value, opposed to 75% of the value or 70% of the value.
Right. I think that, yeah, I mean, God, that's amazing that's worked for you. Obviously, there's a lot of people that say to you to be cautious of that because you can get kind of blacklisted. I've never heard of actually anybody saying that they've actually been blacklisted from getting a mortgage in terms of that. So I don't know. It's a risk. It's a risk, obviously. But there's John Paul saying that he's done it, and I know that John Paul's a credible guy. He runs a successful bathroom company in Glasgow. I've been to visit him personally in his showroom in Glasgow, and he's a good businessman. He's got a successful business. So, you know, John Paul, who's on your screen right now, he's not just any old guy. He's a good businessman.
I generally bend rules, don't break them. This is how I try to operate.
Did you run that past your broker, or were you just doing that? Did you have a broker? Or did you just?
No, I worked for RBS, so I knew exactly how the system worked, and that's why I was able to go, right, this is what I'm doing. Wow. And because I worked for them, they did less check. They didn't need ID. They didn't need bank statements. They didn't need wage slips because they had all my information because I was a member of staff.
By the way, you could package that as a course. You could make millions off of that. make that into a training course, mate. No,
I wouldn't bother.
Appreciate that, man, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing it. Cheers. I think the questions have kind of dried up there. A bit of chat going back and forward. So, has anyone got anything else they want to ask? Or I saw a couple of suggestions there on people that'd like to get on the podcast. So I've wrote them down. Thanks very much for them. Anything else, Nick?
How do you know a good from a bad? What's that? How do you know a good one from a bad one? Mortgage broker. When's Nick getting a haircut? Yeah, I think I'm going to get the clippers out soon. I think the wife's she's had enough of it as well. So get clippers out. Sorry, somebody said, how do you know a good one from a bad one relating to mortgage brokers? So I guess it's just a case of personal recommendation. If you want, we can hook you up with a couple of mortgage brokers.
I found a few years back, I used to try and not pay for brokers, and then you quickly kind of realised that then you looked at what their motivation was in getting you a product, and it was based on what percentage they got from the lender. So it wasn't necessarily what they got from you. They wouldn't look at it for your best interest, they'd look at it for their own. So I started paying for a broker if it was a few £100 fee, £300, £400, £500, paid for it. So then I felt that they'd already had their fee up front. So then they looked for the best product that fitted the criteria that you wanted, rather than, I'm going to go and push Stephen towards RBS because they're giving me 1% off the borrowing, or I'm going to push them towards Halifax because they're going to give them 1.5. So they were dictated on how much money they were making. So I felt that if you found a good one, if they ask for a fee, don't necessarily go, fuck, I'm not paying that fee, I can get them for free. Pay the fee if you can get a decent one.
Cool. I think there was another one that I just missed here from Raymond. Hi Nick, I've got 60k to invest in property. I'm a self-employed tradesman, electrician, looking to build a portfolio to supplement my income and provide a pension for me long term. I've decided the BRRR is the model that suits me best. Where it's best to find deals? I've spent hours on Rightmove and Zoopla, but don't know where to start, thanks. So you're certainly in the right place. I mean, this is the most common question. Where do you find the deals? We did a podcast on this, so go and check that out. But just quickly, you're absolutely in the right, you're on the right path there. I find all my deals pretty much on Rightmove. It's just plain and simple. You've just got to know your market and you've got to know your numbers. The reason you're probably struggling is because you don't know a good deal when you see it, because you've not done the kind of background research about what other properties go for in the area, and you've not really, done enough, ran the numbers, because Stephen, you'll say it's all about the numbers.
Yeah, completely. All about the numbers. Know when you're in value is, know what all your costs are, all your associated costs with it, borrowing costs, utility costs, council tax, all your costs. Make sure you've got all your numbers there. Then when you see something that you'll be able to recognise the deals more easily, because you know the end value plus minus the costs of what's going to cost you to do the work. So
yeah, I mean, just honestly, right, you don't need to look further than Rightmove, especially with what's coming up, because there's going to be loads of properties out there, and there's going to be loads of deals and bargains to be had. So keep on Rightmove, set up your alerts, make sure you know your market inside out. Look for ones that have stuck on the market as well. Zoopla have got a search facility filter that has most reduced. I don't think Rightmove has that, but go to the most reduced. If you find property that's been sat in the market, that's been reduced a number of times, that could cry out a motivated seller, somebody who may well take a reduced offer. So check that out as well. Other things you can do are you can do your own marketing, your Facebook adverts. You can get into, set up a page or a website and try and do some of this. We'll buy your house fast for cash. I'm not really into that. I don't think that it really works that well, because people generally think you're just trying to screw them over. And other things you can do, obviously, is work with a sourcer as well. A good sourcer is quite difficult to come by. And again, you need to do your own due diligence there as well. So, yeah, got my kids shouting at me from the top window.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, Nick. Yeah. Where about you investing, just out of interest? Who's asked it? It was Raymond that asked.
I don't know, Raymond, if you want to come on, feel free.
Pete's telling you he's wearing a hat to cover his head like you. Raymond is Hamilton. Good, mate. There's a couple of guys in here that invest in Hamilton.
Right, guys, if you find that useful at all, I think the numbers are dropping off now, so it's probably getting quite late.
Everyone's getting bored of the chat.
John Paul Rafferty, do you think the BRR, what do you call this, the BRRR or the brr?
The brr model.
Brr model. What is the brr? Kelly's asking, what's the brr?
Buy, renovate, rent and refinance, is it within 3 hours?
Yeah. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, I would say. That's what that is.
Yeah. Yep, thanks very much, guys. Appreciate the time tonight. Love the feedback on guests we're going to try and get on as well for a future podcast. And any topics you want covered, please let us know.
If you go and check out the Facebook group, guys, because that's really gaining in momentum, and we're getting some.
Oh, you never got everybody to take a picture of the Zoom call and chuck on their Instagram stories.
They've all disappeared. Oh, it's still 35. If you don't mind taking a screenshot or a wee picture on your phone, you can follow me and Stephen on Instagram. So this is how we do it, guys. On Instagram, we document our daily lives in property, and we share a bit of our kind of personal lives as well. And that's on Instagram stories. You can see us. On the Facebook group, we like to build that as a community of people who are wanting to help each other, just like we have done in this Zoom call tonight. So we've had Jerry Alexander chipping in there. We had Neil through in Edinburgh. All these guys who are active in their own little niches of property are so willing to come on and share information, and they're willing to help on the group as well. So this is just free information for you guys, free content. If you want to go and spend thousands of pounds on a course, that's absolutely fine as well, but you will get huge value from this little community right here. And yeah, LinkedIn, you can find us on there, and obviously the podcast is our main thing. We've also got the YouTube channel, which is, YouTube's a hard thing. It's very difficult to build the numbers on YouTube, but we're plugging away at it.
Unless you want to slate a property trainer, mate, and put some YouTube videos out there.
Aye, that's definitely, well, that seems to be the way guys are building their following on YouTube. If you do a sort of expose on Samuel Leeds, then potentially you could get your numbers up. But yeah, I find that whole thing quite intriguing as well.
I find it quite bizarre where the motivation is to spend thousands of pounds on creating YouTube content to try and make someone look bad, because it doesn't necessarily make you look good by looking someone bad or burning someone's business. Just doesn't see. I don't see the motivation on it, but hopefully answers all my questions when we get them on the podcast. That's what I asked Shaf. Hopefully, if he comes on, what's his beef with Samuel Leeds, and why is he so obsessed with exposing this industry? Interesting. I don't know where he's. I've been trying to figure it out myself, where he's going with the whole thing. Because people generally
you know, there's obviously, everybody's got a reason for doing something. Of course, we want to help people doing this, but obviously we get a kickback as well from people who are wanting to work with us, you know, people who want a joint venture with us. It gets our name out. So everybody has a motivation. And, you know, the guy's a shrewd businessman. There's no way he's doing it just for the, you know, the good of his own, goodness out of his own heart. So there's definitely motivation somewhere along the line.
Yeah, hopefully we'll hear about it soon.
Cool.
All right, cheers for that,
Good
guys.
stuff. Take care, guys. Bye for now.
Cheers. I'll stop the recording.